Welcome to Popcorn Chat. I'm Kurt Jarvis. The movie I will be reviewing for you this week is The Hunger Games, starring Jennifer Lawrence. I also will be going over one topic that is a slight pet peeve of mine, or that is a great topic of discussion, which is books that are made into movies. Let's jump right into the movie review. By the way, this week, this movie review is brought to you by Fight Club Soap. When you absolutely have to kick the crap out of dirt, get Fight Club Soap. I can tell you what it does, but that's against rule number 1. The Hunger Games is a very good movie. I liked the Hunger Games movie. I thought it was... I didn't think it was exceptional. I didn't think it was outstanding. But I thought it was very good. It's very much worth your time. They take a lot of chances in this movie. The first chance they take is they made a movie over 2 hours long. Usually, that'll drive people away. Because they'll be like, I don't want to spend 2 hours in a theater because I'm used to Adam Sandler movies that are like a half hour long and I feel really dumb. So people don't go see them, okay? That's one of the big problems. But people have really been flocking to it. So that's a good thing, and that's a good sign. What I really enjoyed about the movie is Jennifer Lawrence is terrific. And that does not surprise me. I've said for at least 4 years now that she's been terrific in everything I've ever seen her in. If you want to see her best work, go rent a movie called Winter's Bone. That is by far her best acting job. It's a gritty, very, very gutty movie, but that is her best work. Go see it if you're a big fan of hers. The Hunger Games worked because I really liked the pacing. Okay, the pacing of the movie was very, very tricky. I can tell by the way it was set up. They actually didn't get into the contest. If you don't know what the Hunger Games is, really quick, there is a society that is forced once a year to have a male and female representative from their district. Okay, and there's 12 districts, or 13 districts. And they all have to fight to the death, and whoever is the last one standing wins. And it's called the Hunger Games. And however much you eat is how many times you put in your name into the fishbowl to get chosen. So you have to figure out, do I want to be hungry or what? And it's basically a survival test. The survival test is, can you survive in the wilderness and survive getting killed and a lot of this stuff. It's a very interesting premise, okay? It's kind of like The Most Dangerous Game on steroids. It's kind of the way I looked at it, okay? It's very good, and it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not a violent movie. I mean, as far as, you know, this overly gory kind of film, it's actually made for people about the ages of 13 to 20. That's the age range it's going for. So the violence is very, very fluff in the movie, and you know, you see like every now and then you'll see blood splattering on a tree or something like that. But it's nothing gory. It's you know, it's very clean for a violent movie. And the story of it is actually about humanity. And Jennifer Lawrence plays the main character who volunteers to protect her sister. Her sister's name actually got chosen, and only people from the ages of 12 to 19 get chosen. Her sister was probably 12, 13 maybe, and she's much older. She's probably closer to the 19 range. So her sister gets chosen. She says, no, I will volunteer, and she enters the fray. And you start finding out that, you know, this is all televised, by the way. The whole thing is televised for everybody else to see, and everybody clamors to see it. And of course, it's a TV show, so you have to act proper, you have to look pretty, you have to do all this stuff. And it's very, very well done. It's a whole different world, a whole different structure. And the pacing of it, as far as a movie, was about medium to just above medium. It wasn't a slow pace. It moved right along very steadily. And even during some of the action scenes, they took their time with it. They didn't rush into it and say, oh, by the way, you're going to get killed, and it was over. They took their time, scuffled a little bit, you know, didn't kill anybody right away, that sort of thing, even though you knew somebody was going to have to go down, and so they got a lot of them to kill. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. There were times where I just got lost in the dialogue. I didn't think it was written particularly well for film. But those were very few and far between, and they were very minor. It didn't take away from my experience of the film at all. In fact, I like I said, overall, I enjoyed this film, and I recommend this film. It's 2 hours and 22 minutes long. And that was probably a hard decision to do. So, again, I recommend it. And now let me get into a topic that I love. And I've loved this topic for a long time, and people still look at me like I have 3 eyes when I'm through with this, but I don't care. Of course, this past week I've been seeing on Facebook that, oh, the Hunger Games good, but the book is so much better, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Let me tell you something and why that usually annoys me. Of course the book is better. It's supposed to be better. They don't have near as many rules as a movie does to follow. You can sit there and you can create 2 or 3 backstories for a character. You can tell the audience that's reading it what they're thinking. You can get into the politics if you want. You can tell them that they come from a whole different universe if you want. Okay? You can't do that in film. A film is simply an adaptation of a book. Of course the book is going to be better. It's 2 different art forms, people. It's like saying a painting and a sculpture. Which one's better? I mean, come on. They both take a lot of time to create. Okay? They're just done differently. And it's hard to judge. I mean, look at The Hunger Games is 4 pages long? Okay? The Hunger Games movie, like I said, is 2 hours and 22 minutes, so that's about 142 pages of script that actually made the cut. So it was probably 150, 155 pages worth of script to start, and they edited it down to 142. That's half of what you have to work with for a book, okay? Now, publishers make you edit books, usually because they're too long in places or whatever, but you don't have that freedom in a movie. In a movie, you've got to set up the premise. That's a difficult premise to set up. You may have 100 pages in a book to set up a premise. You only have about 10 in a movie. Maybe 15 if you're lucky. Okay? And like I said, they didn't even get to the actual game itself till about halfway through the movie. So you got a lot of premise to set up. You got to do that, and you got to build characterization, and you got to put in dialogue that people want to sit there and watch. That's the difference, okay? You could trudge along in a book and get from point to point to point to point to point to point to point and not have to do anything because you know you're going to get to a point, okay? You can't do that with a movie. You just can't. So always the books are better. Duh! I hate when people say that. It's like saying, I like breathing air. Great, thanks for stating the obvious. I don't understand the people's thinking on that. No, I'm not saying that every movie that's been made from a book is good. No, sometimes they're just bad movies. And I do like, I have learned that the movies I tend to like more that were derived from books have the writer of the book somewhere in the process of the film, whether it be writing the film or at least there as a mentor on the film, because I think they can capture the essence of what the book was supposed to be about. You know, Stephen King loves writing films now. I mean, he loves being on that project. He used to hate it because he used to just take his titles and his books and rip them apart and he had no say in it. Now he likes doing it because he has a say-so in it, and it works better. And that's just it. And that's the total difference in those 2 things. So it's 2 different art forms. You can't compare them. They're just not comparable in my mind. They're just not. One has to be separate from the other. And yes, sometimes I change character names, and sometimes I change sometimes that's the writer doing that. The writer who wrote the book sometimes will do that because they thought, well, maybe I had a better idea for this, or maybe it'll flow better as a movie, because they understand it's a different art form. I tell you what I'll do one of these days. If I ever make a lot of money and like win the Powerball or something, or the Mega Millions, I will make a movie based on a popular book, and I will go page for page, word for word, and make everybody happy who sees that movie. It'll be an 18-and-a-half-hour movie, but you can't say it wasn't like the book, because I'll go page for page and word for word. Okay? That's where you're standing. That's where this is going. You can't do that. You have to make choices for the film so people will go see the movie. That's it. If you come back next week, I'm going to be reviewing Mirror, Mirror, which I have mixed feelings about in the beginning, so we'll see how this works out. And out on DVD this week, my DVD recommendation is A Dangerous Method. As always, if you want to leave a comment, a dirty joke, or a suggestion of a movie you want to see reviewed in the future, feel free to do that. Until next time, I might see you at the movies.